Matt White invited me to give this presentation. It's my great honor and pleasure to share my view and an update about the standardization for Metaverse in IEEE. So first of all, I'd like to briefly introduce myself. So I'm the CEO and the founder of a company called Senses, which was started in 2016. Focusing on virtual reality technologies. So Xerox Senses was one of the 37 founding members of Metaverse Standards Forum when the forum was started in June 2022. And also I'm currently serving as the president of the IEEE Standards Association. So, IEEE is the world's largest professional organization. There are 6 major organizational units covering different aspects of IEEE, including technical activities and education, publication, and so on. And IEEE Standards Association is one of the 6 major organizational units of IEEE. So I'm although my title is the president of the IEEE Standards Association, I'm also a VP of the entire IEEE. And the IEEE Standards, IEEE is also one of the most important standards organizations in the world, and it's also a partner SDO of the Metaverse Standards Forum. So I'd like to share with you some of my personal view about the Metaverse and also the activities happening in IEEE regarding Metaverse. So first of all, we have been talking about the definition of Metaverse. So back in 2018, I co-authored a paper with Steve Mann, who is recognized as the father of wearable computing, and Tom Furness, who is recognized as one of the grandfathers of virtual reality. We co-authored a paper for all reality, trying to summarize all kinds of different realities. But in terms of the definition of a metaverse, I came up with a definition trying to be more simple. So my definition is that there are 3 different types of metaverses. It's basically a kind of experience in which the outside world is perceived by the users as being a digital universe, or a universe that is built upon digital technologies, either a different universe or a digital extension of our current universe, or digital counterpart of our current universe. So we can cover virtual reality style metaverse, augmented reality style metaverse, and the digital twin style metaverse. But also I recognized that we need to be more inclusive. So the biggest consensus on metaverse so far is that the metaverse will have a profound impact on everything, and it's the next big thing, or in my humble opinion, the next biggest thing. But different people come from different disciplines or communities. They use the metaverse to describe sometimes completely different things. So I try to make this diagram to make everybody happy, or at least equally unhappy. So I think there are at least, according to my observation, there are at least 2 different views. One view I call that experience view. Like I said, if we consider metaverse is a kind of experience, especially it is named after the universe, it has to have something to do with a universe. So from that perspective, it could be a digital and different universe, or it could be a digital extension of our current universe, or it could be a digital counterpart of our current universe. But there's another view, which is functional view, which is not really a definition of metaverse, but about what metaverse could do. So from that perspective, it could be the next version of web, Web 3.0. Please note that I don't use the term Web 3 because Web 3 was coined by Gavin Wood. Now is exclusively used to refer to decentralized web. But Web 3.0 is more neutral, so the different naturally it's the next version of web. It could be either semantic, as Sir Berners-Lee proposed many years ago, or it could be decentralized, or it could be 3D, or it could be intelligent. So people say that metaverse would be the next version of web. And also we know that the web is just a part of the internet. So metaverse could also be the next generation of the internet. And lastly, metaverse could be the next stage of digital transformation. With regard to digital transformation, our view is that there are 5 different stages or phases of digital transformation, from starting from automation and then interconnection. We had the journey from desktop internet to mobile internet, then Internet of Things, and then personalization, which was in conjunction with Web 2.0. Basically, it was massive user-generated content and personalized recommendations, and also intelligentization. We have seen AI applications in multiple industries, and recently we see the rise of generative AI, lots of AIGC, AI-generated content, and soon we will see more and more AI-generated services towards the rise of AGI, artificial general intelligence. But to me, I think the next big wave would be, we call that realitization, or in other words, metaverse. So thanks to all the digital technologies our human beings accumulated during the past decades, for the first time, we are at a point that we will be able to create new realities, new universes, although those are digital ones. So that's what we call that metaverse or realitization. And in terms of metaverse technology landscape, metaverse is based on supporting technologies such as computation, storage, communications, data, and intelligence. But talking about the core technologies of metaverse, we consider there are 3 major categories. Sense and actions, which is basically about addressing virtual and real sensors and actuators, feed into brain-machine interface, or body-machine interface, or programming interface, and eventually serve human and creatures, or non-player characters and AI or machines. And I believe many of you are working on the second category, which we call that persistent virtual worlds, based on different engines, physical engines, graphic engines, sound engines, and intelligent engines, and also support different modeling, designing, and digital content creation technologies. We used to have PGC, professional generated content, and user generated content, and we saw AI-aided PGC and AI-aided UGC, and we are seeing the rise of AIGC, and also we will have digital twin generated content to support to build various virtual maps, virtual scenes, virtual objects, and virtual characters. And lastly, digital finance and economy is, of course, an important part of metaverse. Digital assets, including but not limited to virtual assets, may or may not be built upon decentralization, because centralized platforms would also be able to provide similar functions. And also decentralization may or may not be built upon blockchain. But anyhow, so that is an overview of the metaverse technology landscape. And let's talk about the scope of standards development, because I'm the president of the IEEE Standards Association. So my view is that standards development, the scope need to be expanded. We used to say that standards are market driven, which means standards will be developed after a technology or a market is mature enough. However, in recent years, along with the emergence of more and more emerging technologies and new technologies, we say standards are playing a market driving role. For example, in the autonomous driving industry, that's my favorite example, although it's not an IEEE example. So SAE J3016 is a very good example. It classified autonomous driving into 6 different levels, from level 0 to level 5. So everybody in the autonomous driving industry is using that standard, saying that, hey, his company is working on the level 3 autonomous driving, and my company will release aim for level 4 autonomous driving next year, something like that. So that is probably the most popular standard in that industry, and that's a good example that standards can be developed ahead of the mature ahead of the technologies or the markets becoming mature enough, and the standards can set up milestones or roadmaps for the industry to follow. So we are actually trying to achieve a good mixture of both market-driven and market-driving standards. Another dimension is that typically we talk about technical standards, but we say more and more non-technical standards, which are also badly needed. For example, standards for artificial intelligence. So IEEE has been developing non-technical standards, especially ethical standards for artificial intelligence. And the recent rise of generative AI, particularly ChatGPT, has proven that IEEE's efforts in this area was very successful. So we will say non-technical standards are also important to help the industry minimize risks from the ethical and other societal perspectives. And also, in terms of the standardization, standards development process, we have pre-standardization and post-standardization efforts. Pre-standardization efforts means well, in my humble opinion, that's basically what the Metaverse Standards Forum has been working on. So it's like we have study groups, we can generate documents such as white papers and other working documents towards the initiation of standards projects, standards development efforts itself. And also after a standard is released, we will have post-standardization efforts such as conformity assessment, certification, and verification. So that's an expanded scope of standards development. So talking about the Metaverse standardization, my view is that we should start from fundamentally, we will need the terminology, definitions, and taxonomy. There are, on top of that, there are three major pillars. Technologies, of course, we need standards to address interoperability, interfaces, formats, functions, performance, safety, security, identity, and privacy. And also there are two other pillars, content. Given the immersive nature of Metaverse, or I would say potentially immersive nature of Metaverse, the Metaverse could have significant impact, positive or negative, on your mental health or even physical health. So we need standards for content as well, like descriptors and ratings. Also, we need to address the social implications, like the ethics, ESG, and SDG aspects of the Metaverse. And on top of all of this, it's generally agreed that the Metaverse will have profound impact on everything, on every industry. So there will be applications, Metaverse applications in different industries, and we will say standardization needs for those applications in different industries as well. So with that being said, I also want to give you some examples of what should be standardized at the very beginning. For example, how to use the word Metaverse. Do we need to capitalize M? Do we need to add Z or A in front of that? Those kind of things, we hope we can also address that in the standard at the very beginning. And another debate is like eventually we will have one metaverse or multiple metaverses. Those are not only a language game, like if we call each virtual world a verse, then collectively the collection of them can be called a metaverse. Or if we call each virtual world a metaverse, then how do we call the collection of them? Maybe the internet of metaverses. But this is also related to the technical and the business perspective. Various metaverses, they may or may not have to be connected with each other, right? So for those metaverses which are connected with each other, we can find a name for them. However, the standalone metaverses which are not connected with other metaverses, for example, those industrial metaverses, they can of course be still valuable. So that's some debate we have been seeing recently. we hope we can address that in the standard as well from the terminology perspective. And also in terms of the features of them from two dimensions. One dimension is that we need to divide the mandatory features from recommended features and optional features. We cannot say, hey, Metaverse is immersive or has to be massive. Those could be recommended features, but not necessarily be mandatory features. And of course, decentralized is a feature I would say that is optional. Of course, there could be centralized metaverses as well. So those are features of a metaverse. We use shall, should, and may to describe mandatory features, recommended features, and optional features. Another dimension when we talk about the features or characteristics of metaverses is internal versus external. Internal means those features you will observe or you will experience when you are virtually in the metaverse. In other words, universe of bits. And external means those features you will observe from the infrastructure or devices you used to build or access metaverse, which is basically in the universe of atoms or in our current physics universe. For example, accessible and pervasive, which are examples of external features. So those also need to be considered when we are standardizing the metaverse, especially from the terminology and the taxonomy perspective. So what IEEE has been doing to drive standardization efforts to pave the road to the metaverse. First of all, we started the IEEE Metaverse Congress, which is a well-established event series in the global metaverse industry. So the goal is to provide a global and comprehensive view of the metaverse. So far, we have conducted 11 different sessions, virtual hybrid sessions collectively. We already reached over 100,000 attendees during the past 11 sessions. So the next session will be on April 14th in New York, right after the NFT NYC event. And IEEE also established, well, in all the major global and international SDOs, IEEE also was the first to establish a standards committee dedicated to metaverse or explicitly named after metaverse. It was formerly IEEE VR and AR Standards Committee, but we renamed that to Metaverse Standards Committee in September 2022 and extended its scope. And also we have started several projects explicitly include metaverse in their title. The first one is 2048, which is standard for metaverse terminology definitions and taxonomy. So we had the kickoff meeting on January 31st this year, and we're planning another the second meeting at the end of this month. And 1716, which is a standard for metaverse ethics. This one also had 2 meetings already. And 1716.1 is about educational metadata for XR and metaverse. This one is still being reviewed. And we also have 3812.1, which is for identity framework for metaverse. And as I mentioned before, in IEEE, we in addition to standards development, we also have encourage pre and post standardization efforts. We have a program called the Industry Connections. Industry Connections basically could be about everything, anything in pre-standardization or post-standardization, except for standards development itself, which has to be conducted in officially in working groups. So we have 2 ISIC programs. One is called the Persistent Computing for Metaverse, trying to address how we can put together all kinds of technologies to build and operate persistent virtual world or persistent virtual universe. And another one is about a decentralized metaverse, like how we understand the metaverse could be centralized or decentralized. But in terms of decentralized, what need to be done? And so you can also look at an article I co-authored recently. This article listed all the projects under IEEE. And you can also stay tuned at the metaverse.IEEE.org. We are maintaining a comprehensive list of those metaverse-related programs and projects within IEEE. Some of them are not literally or explicitly named after metaverse, but they are considered as metaverse-related standards or projects. For example, from AI perspective, from XR perspective, and from like cloud computing, blockchain, and the digital twin perspective. And lastly, we are preparing, we are going to launch a new program. We call that IEEE Still Metaverse Acceleration and Sustainability Association, which is supposed to be producing roadmaps and standards development in fast lane, and the pilot projects and the open source reference implementations, and the conformity assessment and the certification. So the vision of this program is that we feel like we need to do something to accelerate the development of metaverse and accelerate the adoption of metaverse, and also make sure the development of metaverse and the adoption of metaverse itself is sustainable, and also contribute positively and constructively to the global sustainability. So that's a vision of this program we are working on. We are preparing the launch of this program, and we are pitching different potential founding members. So if you are interested, feel free to contact me. So lastly, I put my contact information on my screen, my email address, y.yuan@IEEE.org, and also my LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or drop me an email. So I conclude my presentation here. Thank you.